record. Thank you. Okay, and we mute. Okay, close all these preparations. Okay, so welcome, good morning. We learn, of course, the Ilui Nishmat Chai Avram and Rachalei of Mir Tzvi. And today, in addition, we also learn the Ilui Nishmat Elisheva Sima Bat. I don't know Hallie's Hebrew name, unless you have it there. I'd like to say it. Don't run, don't run. It's not worth tripping. Well, once it's true, his name. He's sorry, he already passed her because okay, Hannah Rivka and Zalman. Zalman, yeah, because the general rule is that by Ashkenazim, after the person passes away, use the father's name. You generally speaking, it's almost always I shouldn't say always. When it's for something like someone's sick, you use the mother's name, Ashkenazim and Sfaradim, because you're basically saying, Hashem, have mercy on this person. It's the mother's child. When it is a Kel Malay, when it is a person who's already passed away, the Ashkenazim use the father's name. By Sfaradim, it tends to be more the mother's, sometimes the father's. It's different minhagim. Yeah. But usually for Shlema, it's with the mother's name. It's the father's name. Right. And then when you saw like in the Ketubah, I've seen both used. So mother and father, it depends on the families, depends on the okay. I would be remiss, of course, if I didn't just briefly touch on the fact that this is the second tragedy, first tragedy within our neighborhood recently, and the second one in the last 2 weeks within the Jewish community I'm connected to within Beit Shemesh. Those of you knew Dr. Dodi Tobin. I knew her as Dodi Fishman. I knew her since she's a little girl. Tremendous loss. I mean, so she'd been sick with cancer for a number of years, went to remission, and came back with a vengeance, unfortunately. She was very open about her facing death. She actually gave a class. She taught at Matan for many years. Many of her classes are online. One specifically about dying. In addition, which I thought was phenomenal, a number of people, I went to the shiva. It's the longest shiva call I've ever made in my life. There were like 12 people sitting shiva, bunch of siblings, parents. It's like so many people sitting shiva in originally Chicago. And so a number of people made mention of a specific talk she gave in Chicago in Yom Yerushalayim for religious Zionist community, which I had given one a few years ago. And they said, no, you have to listen to what she said. It was amazing. I listened to it. It's only like 12, 14 minutes. Basically, she said, like, I got a phenomenal Jewish education here, love of Israel, and we all know what we're supposed to do. And then in a very nice, couched way, she said, what the heck are you guys doing here? You call yourself a religious Zionist. What are you doing here? She almost said it B'zeh Lashon, but she said it in a very nice way. So, Nishmat Elisheva, Nishmat Avraham. A lot of learning to do for this. What I want to do, we're in the middle of chapter 16, Tet Zion, and we're picking it up where it says, I mind having a little book, I just want to see the page, unless you already know. Tet Zion, oops, where it says, Hu Masha David HaMelech Alav HaShalom Amar. It's on the bottom of page 97, page 97. I'm going to kind of go through some of this a little faster than usual, and some I'll spend a little more time, because there are a couple of things I really want to try to get to today, just in case for some reason we don't meet. The plan is to meet next week, but if for any reason we don't, I want to certain things before Rosh Hashanah to make sure we touch on. We're talking about Tahara, about a sense of spiritual purity. And we're talking now about the mind, the heart, not just doing the mitzvah, but also how we're involved, how we involve every part of our senses, every part of our neshama, so to speak, and invest in it. It is what David HaMelech said, who is mine in the heavens, I don't want anything besides you on this earth. Furthermore, he also similarly said, your word is pure. The concept here in these psukim and this paragraph and a couple others coming up is the concept of purity. For those of you who are familiar with metals, you know that there's, like, you could have 24 karat gold, you get 14 karat gold. What's the difference in them? It has to do with the sigim, which is like the impurities in the metal. There's really no such thing as 100% pure, because that would not, you would need something to keep it like a bond, not emulsifier, that's in food. Some bonding agents, yeah, that will keep it from falling apart. And we know that diamonds are, you never notice diamonds are a girl's best friend, but a dog is a man's best friend. There's some lack of parity there. Anyways, but diamond talking in terms of carat and color and clarity, right? So that there's this idea that, imagine, I remember when I went to get a diamond, first got engaged. So I went to the jeweler, and obviously wholesaler, lived in the neighborhood, and he showed us a diamond and said that there's a teeny tiny, I mean, unmicroscopic dot embedded in there somewhere. Okay, really? I'm like, we're going to walk around with the Andes rainbow. Oh, tiny dot. Okay, so that didn't, we couldn't even see it. Okay, fine. What do you care? It's a 14 karat. So some things, it really is immaterial. In some cases, it is something that you would be very concerned with, especially if it's in food. It's something very tiny, but it's going to affect the health factor, it's going to affect the taste factor, whatever it might be. So we're talking about purity here as far as that's concerned. Because true service of Hashem is, it has to be even more purified than gold and silver. I did hear once, an interesting thing is, it's not connected directly to this, but I mentioned gold and silver. It's nice to say that what's one of the differences between gold, physical, besides the color and the value, what's one of the differences between gold and silver? Silver tarnishes, gold does not, right? So what do you have to do with silver? If you want to, you have to polish, you have to actually work at it. So on one hand, we want to be pure like gold, but on the other hand, we also have to look at our lives as silver, that it just can't let it tarnish. We have to actually work at it, you have to polish it, you have to work at it. This is what it says regarding Torah. This concept again of the Torah and the words of Torah being 100% pure and purified multiple times. Someone one is truly a servant of Hashem. He doesn't want to just to get by with the bare minimum. He would not want to just get by with, if a sense of, he's talking metaphorically, with an impure silver, impure gold that has mixed into it impurities. The hainu, meaning, if he really wants Torah, that's what he's striving for. He would not want his service of Hashem to be with any mixture of anything impure, which would be problem with wrong thoughts, concentrating on something else instead of what he's supposed to be doing. But as pure and pure, there's two different ways of saying clear and pure as possible. And only then can you say he's really doing the mitzvah as it says to do the mitzvah. This is an amazing statement. If you do a mitzvah, doesn't say all mitzvah, a mitzvah, exactly how it says to do it, which means heart and soul, kavana, everything else, you won't be given bad news. The idea of doing your actions for the sake of your creator and speak about them for their own sake. But what does that mean? You won't hear bad news. What does that even mean? So if something, God forbid, happens that's bad, like happened yesterday, we hear about it. So what does that mean? What do you think that means? If you don't get B'Sorot Tovot, it won't even happen. It won't even happen. Somehow our actions, excellent. Our actions help protect other people too. How do we know that? Because we know that Am Yisrael is like a guf echad, like one body. Now, even though if I punch you and I hurt you, I used this example last week also, or 2 weeks ago. If I punch you and hurt you, it's not the same as my punching myself and hurting myself. We are physically separated, but we're one neshama. We all come from the, I'm gonna get too Kabbalistic, but it's called the Shivrei Kelim, and the Adam Arishon, he had all the the 600,000 neshamot that end up becoming all parts of Am Yisrael. So we all have the same source. So by doing something that we do, we save ourselves in a sense, but we also save other people through our actions. We don't know that though. I don't mean that it's not true. I'm saying we can't know the results. It's like if the phone doesn't ring, it's me not calling. Like what? Think about that. Like, how do I know that someone was supposed to have something happen now because so and so did a mitzvah well? It has an effect on that. And I don't know because nothing happened. Does it also mean, God forbid, if we do something wrong, it causes somebody else to have a problem? Not necessarily. There's not necessarily a correlation there. So don't make that assumption ever. How do you? I used this expression the other day. My father, Allah Shalom, coined a word. I never heard it anywhere. I searched even online, never saw it. Called, did I use it in here? Called the frumometer. Yeah, a frumometer to measure someone else's frumkeit, their religiosity. So this is not the same idea. This is talking about how a person can measure themselves if they are actually, am I really doing the right thing? Am I an Eved Hashem or not? How do I check myself? Someone who is not clinging to God with true love. This idea of trying to purify your thoughts and your actions to do the best will seem like a tremendous burden. Doesn't mean that you're going to do it. It means you just said, not even worth it. It's too much trouble. Now, most people, if asked, do you want to try to do the mitzvah the best way possible? Hopefully everyone would say yes. Doesn't mean you're going to do it, but it means at least you want to do it. This is talking about a person who says, forget it. Forget about it. Ain't happening. He'll say to himself, who can really do all this stuff? All we are as humans, we're born of woman. That's nothing about woman. It just means we're human as opposed to angels. It'll be impossible to get to such level of purity. Now, speaking of this word, Isha, it uses the phrase, because when it says in the Midrash, Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Har Sinai to get the Torah, Malachim complained. They said, what's the purpose of a Yilud Isha, to be up here? Hashem says to get the Torah. The Malachim said, well, it's for us. It's not for the humans. He said, really? Do you have children that you can have a Brit Milah with? Do you have children that can live in Israel? Do you have children? No. Okay, then basically, stone. That's it. Quiet. He's getting the Torah. But I also saw something really amazing. When Moshe Rabbeinu is, again, after multiple times, at his wit's end of how Bnei Yisrael really just goes after him. He must have been a malach. There's no question he was an angel also of some sort, to deal with millions of Jews with their constant whining and complaining. We don't have water. We don't have this. We don't have food. Oh, I really missed the stuff that we had in Auschwitz. Like, come on. And he said, in one pasuk, he said, did I give birth to these people? Did I nurse these people? What's he saying? You think I'm a woman that I can handle all this? A woman could do it. I couldn't do it. And I've seen that actually in writing. It's not my Torah. That's the amazing statement. But someone who really does love Hashem and wants really to serve him, he'll rejoice in the fact that he has these opportunities to really do the best job possible. For anyone who's ever worked for somebody, if you're self-employed, not to say, then I guess for your clients, but if you work for somebody and you really want to make sure that person, not because you want to get the paycheck, but you feel invested in the company, either literally or figuratively, and you like your boss, you believe in what you're doing, you want to do the best job possible. And if you could just get by the bare minimum, there are plenty of people like that, you'll get by with the bare minimum. But if you feel there's a way you can go above and beyond, not just because you might get a bigger paycheck, that's always nice, but because you really believe in the product, you believe in the item, you believe in the company, whatever it might be, then you want those opportunities to do better and stronger. It's the same thing here. The more you love Hashem, the more you want these opportunities to be able to do a better, clearer, more pure action. This is exactly what David finished by saying, your servant loves it. What is it that he loves? Not just Hashem. but the opportunities to serve Hashem and how to do it. V'nei, be'emet, zehu ha'mivchan shebo nivchanim v'nivdalim ovdei Hashem atzman b'madrei gata. This is also how an individual who wants to, I guess we would say in this expression, modern terms, of separate the men from the boys, of when someone really is serving Hashem or not. Whoever is able to purify his heart in a greater way, he is the one who will get closer to God, be more beloved to God. Yes, Hashem loves everyone. Obviously, we're all his children, Jew and non-Jew, Muslim terrorist and not Muslim terrorist. We're human beings, and one way or another, Hashem has a love for every human being. But at the same time, the closeness that we feel to Hashem is reflected by Hashem to us. Feels that, again, we're talking metaphorically, the closer of Hashem feeling to us. Now, who do we look to for guidance? Who do we look to for, like, oh, you know what? That's really a good example of what I can follow for purity of heart and not mind. The first ones here, who really overcame any possible problems, ha'avot, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Ushar Roim, and all the other shepherds, She, David. I would add also, obviously, the Imahot. You have to take into consideration, his book is written in the 1700s. And the way that women were related to, on the one hand, was, and you look at the Rambam, it's borne out completely, put on a tremendous pedestal. Tremendous. The other hand, it's also in many of the writings, you don't find a lot of, well, you should be like, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. You don't see that a lot. But I would say here that we can learn about so much from Chana, for example, about Tefillah. We do, halachically we do. So to look at these individuals, and that's, by the way, not being PC. I'm just broadening a little bit of horizon, because I'm not PC. I'm not. Sometimes you have to, I understand. You don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But just call a spade a spade. You got to do what you do. You have to say what you have to say. I know. Yeah, I know. I realize as the words are coming out. Secretary will strike that from the record. The avot, and I get the imahot, and all the shepherds. Again, we're talking about Moshe, David, and others who purify their hearts. Now, we will hopefully at one time, even as going to talk about now a little bit more in depth about David Melech and what he did in concept of heart purification. But if you want that, you have to come to the Tanya class, because we will get to that Bezrat Hashem. This is what David HaMelech warned Shlomo his son. I'm just curious, because I think mine's a misprint. Does yours say kichol? Kichol or kiko? It should be a chaf, not a kaf. You have to, interesting. Okay, kiko. Okay, I forgot. This is a okay, whatever. I'm back. Because all hearts should seek out God, and all the person's intentions understand. What's he talking about? We're talking about being a complete 100% ma'amin b'Hashem, one whose heart is completely turned to God. So too, the Chachamim have said, Rachamana liba bai. I want to spend a moment on this. Rachamana is the Aramaic for Rachaman, Harachaman, which means God. Rachamana refers to two things: Hashem and the Torah. Dichtiv Rachamana. It says in the Torah. That's the expression the Gemara uses. Hashem and the Torah are one. It's not one and the same, but it's Hashem's Torah. It's Hashem's Ratzon. It's Hashem's will. But what does it mean? Rachamana liba bai. Hashem wants your heart. Now, I want to spend time on this for a couple of reasons. Number one, this class is dedicated in memory of Avraham, Zichrono Livracha, and that was his life. It was the family's life. It revolved around the heart from before he was born, and that his heart needed Rachamana. And Baruch Hashem, I know that's how you look at it also, that you were given many years, not enough, nowhere near enough, but not enough ever. And I think that it's important to understand that. What does it mean, this expression, Rachamana liba bai? What does it mean? Hashem wants our heart. couple is celebrating their 20th anniversary. Husband walks into the house, a nice package in his hand, a small little box with a nice bow on top, nice little card, takes it, throws it on the table. Happy anniversary. Where's the beer? Okay. How's that going to go over? Like a lead balloon, right? Why? He said happy anniversary and he gave her a gift. What's the problem? Let me count the ways, you moron. Okay. It's not the gift. It's not the gift. What does the spouse want? Spouse wants the heart. I want to know that you care, that you actually make eye contact with me, that you really want me, you see me. The gift is a representation. Doesn't mean you want to just get a little something out of the old Cracker Jack box, a little plastic ring, which I actually used once to get engaged to a girl. And we were in kindergarten, but that's okay. But for real, and we're still friends to this day. Not Andy. Anyways, where was I? Oh, so it's that you don't want to. It's not like you want to give your spouse like something out of the Cracker Jack box. Obviously not. But at the same time, that's not the important part. Now, a child doesn't get that, right? Because a child, if I were to give a birthday gift to my granddaughter, that was, a half of a crayon, and wrap a little bow. But I said, I love you so much. I really care. You're the best, oldest granddaughter I've ever had my whole life. You made me I'm so love you. And here's your half a crayon. Exact opposite. They couldn't care less about my heart. Right? Couldn't care less. Where's my stinking present, dude? Right? But as you mature, you understand that it's a mixture, but the heart is more important. Putting the love, putting that heart into it. And that's what Hashem wants. Hashem wants our heart. So the difference is, I told you about God's refrigerator. I mentioned this before. God's refrigerator. Okay. So I had this idea years ago. I should write it up one day. It's a little short, not a short story, but an idea. When a child comes home from school, from God, and they have what's called kishkush balabush. They have a little piece of paper and all this squiggles, and they say, look, I drew Ima and Abba. What do you do with it? What do most people do? Oh, it's so beautiful. Let's put it on the fridge. Until they made fridge didn't have a metal door, and then you couldn't stick it on with a magnet, but we'll put it on the steel door. But whatever it is, you put it on the fridge door, and it stays there for a while. Then eventually the parent takes it, puts it in the recycling. Now, we do mitzvot sometimes like that. The expression kishkush balabush means like just scribble. We do a mitzvah, we finish it up, we do the mitzvah, we get yotzei. It's not like we do the mitzvah once a year. We will pay attention. It's kiyat shofar. It's sitting in the sukkah. It's birkat hachama once every 28 years. Wow. Okay. It's putting on tefillin again. It's doing this again, lighting candles again, doing hafrashat challah. Whatever it might be, it becomes, unfortunately, part of routine for some people. It becomes kishkush balabush, but it still goes up to God. God says to his angels, look what my kids did. Look at this. It's beautiful. I know it's all messy. So what? I'm putting it on my fridge. I want you all to see it and get some nachas like I get nachas. That's God's fridge. And I think that no matter how misdirected or misguided our actions might be, and even if our heart is not into it, obviously it still has some value. You can never say it doesn't have value. Chas v'shalom. It has more value when it looks more like, well, I wouldn't say Picasso, because that looks like kishkush balabush, but it looks more like a Rembrandt than it looks like a whatever. So that's what Rachamana Liba by Hashem wants our heart, more so than the action. It's not enough for Hashem from his perspective, nor should it be from ours, just the actual actions. But rather, the heart should be focused, it should be pure, it should be really into the mitzvah we're about to do. Now, I once tried to explain to a group, I was teaching a tefillah class in Chicago, it was a women's class. And I had them come in one day, and I put a piece of paper in front of everybody, and I put a pencil and paper in front of it. They, of course, they're joking, you're having a test. No, okay, no. So I asked everyone to take the pen or the pencil, put it in their hand, and sign their names and sing and like hum the ABCs, just sing the ABCs. No problem. Okay, put your pencil down. We continue the class. That was like nuts. Okay, I came to the topic of intent, kavanah. Said, okay, pick the pencil up again. Put it in your other hand. Don't sing ABCs. Sign your name again. and everyone's laughing and they're trying to says, now, what are you doing at this moment? It's the exact action you do all the time. But now you're doing it, and you're really thinking, how do I make that Z? How do I curve that S? How do I make that, whatever it is, that's intent. That's kavanah, doing the exact same action you always do, but really focusing on it. Now, we cannot, under normal circumstances, do that with everything action we do. It's not, it is normal. It's how we are created theoretically to be able to do, but it takes a long time for Yechidim to be able to get to some stage like that. But pick a mitzvah, pick an action, even if it's once. You know, there's, I mentioned, I've quoted Rabbi Yisrael Reisman Shlita many, many times over the years. And he has I heard it as a tape. He has a tape called My Favorite Mitzvah. I've mentioned this, I'm sure, over the years. Also, that everyone somehow connects with at least one mitzvah on a top scale. Like that's really their favorite, and they like to do. Doesn't mean you negate any other mitzvah, just they connect to this one mitzvah, but they do it to the nth degree, as best as possible, the kavanot and the intention and the thought and the feel and everything. Great. If you could do that with a lot of mitzvot, that's great. But if you can't, once in a while, it's coming over an elul. Think of something you can do that you even do on a routine basis. It could be tefillah, it could be benching, it could be lighting candles, it could be putting on whatever it is. So you know what, today, even once, I'm going to really focus. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be present because Rahmana Liba Bai. Don't do it because Zev Shanel had said, oh, that's the way to do the mitzvah. You do it like that because you want to try to connect a little better to God. And you will find, I've actually tried this. It's a bit overwhelming when you really think about it and you focus on it. But over time, it becomes, I don't want to say routine because it becomes routine, then you've lost it again. But it becomes a part of you when you try to really focus on something. There is a very commonly done act, especially by Sfaradim. If you look in our Siddur, you'll see also before many things, for davening, for mitzvot, it says L'shem yichud kudsha brichu. It's kind of like an introductory statement that you're about to do something that you have in mind to try to fulfill all the kavanot and do it the right way, with all the specifics of the mitzvah. Hineni muchanu mzuman, right? That's by Ashkenazim. You heard that a lot. By Sfaradim, it's L'shem yichud kudsha brichu shchinta v'dechilu uchimu uchidu uchilu v'yach L'shem yodei b'tzvavhei yichud hashlim b'shem kol Yisrael. Why am I rushing through it like that? Because the main point, besides saying you want to have in mind all the proper things, the right kavanot, is you're doing it b'shem kol Yisrael. You're doing it in honor, in name of all of Israel. We don't stand on an island by ourselves. When Hashem says Rahman Liba Bai, when the Midrash says Rahman Liba Bai, that Hashem wants our heart, it's our heart. It's our collective Jewish heart. And every time I do a mitzvah, I affect you. And every time you do a mitzvah, you affect me. When I do Avera, I affect you too, by the way. So I'll try to keep that on the down low right now, especially it's Elul. After Tishrei, 10th of Tishrei, all bets are off. Just joking. Speaking of which, Bezat Hashem, I'll send out probably this week or next week. I'll be giving you Shabbat Shuvah drasha on Shabbat Shuvah. Who would have thought? It's going to be called "Are You in It for the Long Haul?" We'll see what it's about. But if you do say to yourself, I'm going to do that with everything, you might as well not try, because then you've just set yourself up 100% for failure. Pick something. And whatever it is, try and focus on it. If you get through Elul and Tishrei and beyond, which is kind of the focus of what I'll be talking about in Shabbat Shuvah, even better. But if not, at least try now. Something, even something like a bracha. I've mentioned so many times over the years, there's no such word in Hebrew as b'cholam. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech olam. You have b'chom breitz. Right? It doesn't work that way. There's no b'cholam. And when you make a bracha, we're very makbid on this in our house. When you make a bracha, say it out loud. Even if no one's there, by the way, but especially if someone else is there, because they can say amen. Get used to saying your brachot out loud. I remember I was in the States in the summer, and a couple of places, I won't say where, and I mean, Andy and I both, we always make our brachot like Maine. Like people say, like, okay, like, why'd you say the bracha out loud? We're trained. You say a bracha, you don't really change it, and you should, because sometimes they say that even the person saying the amen is even a greater level than the person who made the bracha. Okay, I don't know, I don't know, whatever it is, but stop for a minute. Say, I know a couple people I would never do this because it would drive me crazy. I know a couple of people, actually 2 of them are rabbis of Schultz. We have a little card in their pocket, and when they make a bracha, even shakol, they look at the words. Okay, I can't, I'm not at that level. I can't do that. I think that would make me a little nuts. I don't know why, but it would. It's one of my, this class is about me. So I have to share all these things. It's my therapy session here. Yes, Joel. But so that's why you should. Yeah. We had a little incident with Kaddish one time when I came back, and I was still in jet lag. I said it when I shouldn't. I didn't say what I was supposed to say. So, but other than that, 99% is also pretty good. Yes, Judy. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much from her. And one of the things I learned is that before you make the blessing, the Shabbos candles, you go and wash your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you're making the bracha
right.
or washing your hands, but that your hands should be clean
and
pure. She said, and she came up with this. The rabbi didn't tell her. She came up with this. Therefore, your heart and your head are concentrating on the fact that you're going to be doing a mitzvah and that it's an important mitzvah and you're going to be pure,
beautiful,
and clean, and
beautiful,
ready to do it.
Beautiful.
And
so
I try on Friday to always.
It's an outstanding idea. I'm going to repeat this for to make sure it's on the video also. So Judy was just saying that she had a friend in California who had suggested to her that she does also, that before lighting candles on Friday evening, to wash netilat yadayim, not with a bracha, just in the sense to purify your hands, to get her hand, her mind, and heart on the same page to do the mitzvah of lighting the candles. That's beautiful. I like that very much. Okay, what's that? Thank you. Let's finish the paragraph. Tov. I know I keep mentioning Tanya because it dovetails a lot here. For those who are learning Tanya or learned Tanya, it's a different approach Mesilat Yesharim has than Tanya. Very different approach. Tanya talks about the differences between the heart and the head and the brain and the different neshamot and everything else. Right now, let's just focus on his approach here. He says that the lev, the heart, is the melech, is the king of the entire, all the parts of the body. It's also borne out with what we've seen and talked about already a few times, what it says in Sefer Chinuch, which is Acharei ha'peulot nimshachim halevavot, that a person who may not do something with their heart, the more they do it, the more then their heart gets involved. Okay, here you see it means that the more you work on yourself, it affects your heart. But here he's saying that the heart affects the body. So it is a symbiotic relationship. There's no question about it. Imagine a couple is dating. They just started going out, right? So maybe they find the other one attractive. They find certain things that they like, their personalities, but they're not in love yet. But over time, things change and the heart gets involved also. But same thing with a mitzvah, same thing with our actions, the same with our learning and our davening, everything. We find it's interesting, it's moshech, we want to try to do it because we're supposed to do it, but okay, we're not so much there yet. But then we fall in love, so to speak, with the mitzvah, and our heart gets involved because then the heart rules and the heart takes care of us. He doesn't bring himself to the job, so to speak. He makes a very broad statement here. If you don't get your heart involved, then the actions really are nothing. Now, he contradicts himself because earlier he said, I'm going to address that a different time. He already said before that no matter what, there's a mitzvah, you did it. What does he mean? It's nothing. Wherever his heart takes him, that's where he's going to go. So we have to kind of understand, what's he trying to say? It's not nachshav b'klum. Like, that's not the word. So I'm going to actually take a look in. I have the second volume of Rav Avinir's commentary on Mesilat Yesharim. And what I think is, it doesn't mean it's not considered anything. It's klum relative to the idea of this chapter. It's not tahara. You may think it's tahara. You may think it's at that level, but it's not. It's everything else that came before here, and I can prove it with the next chapter, but that's okay. But it's not the be all and end all. You didn't do the job the right way. It's similar to throwing that gift on the table. You gave the gift, but it's not really there. It's nothing. Well, the husband or the wife, chance the wife, are going to have to take it and just, I don't need your stupid gift. And in a sense, that's the approach here. What he means, then he says that, because if you look back, I told you I had it underlined in my book also. You look back early in the middle of the chapter, it says, Ve'eneni, in the chapter, the paragraph that starts, Ki hinei kashem she'en olah. In that paragraph, if you find it, fine. If not, Ve'eneni omer, I am not saying, Shemashu zulat ze yenitcha legamre. I'm not saying that if you don't do these things and have this level of focus and concentration and love and purity, it's completely pushed aside. Yeah, because Hashem never overlooks any action that's positive by anybody. So it's not a contradiction, because I think he has a different, he's talking about a different level. He's talking specifically about Torah when it comes about this paragraph, this chapter. Okay, I just want to check before I shoot my mouth off. Next week. Whoops. Which is the 21st. Okay, Bezrat Hashem will have class the following next week. But after that, it's going to be Tzom Gedalia. I might give class even if people are interested. I'm actually speaking somewhere in Tzom Gedalia, but that's not till noon. So we could have a possibility. Oh, you know what? I can't. Okay, so next week will be the last one we'll cover. Well, it'll be the last class before Rosh Hashanah. And we'll pick it up next week at chapter 17, Bezrat Hashem. Have a great day, everybody.